JRPGs have experimented with so many different combat systems over the years, and honestly I think some of the developers were just trying to push the boundaries of what worked and what didn't work sometimes. Sometimes it was positioning, other times it was timing, and sometimes it was the systems so complicated that you basically had to have like a university degree to understand what was happening. But every game that I'm talking about today tried to push the combat beyond just selecting attack from a menu. So in today's video we're talking about some unique and interesting JRPG combat systems. Before we get to that, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts down below. I'm sure I'm missing probably your favorite games, so I would love to hear from you guys. So let's get to the first one, which is one of my favorite most recent entries, but it's really hard. But the battle system is pretty cool, so check it out. Fantasian. This is one of my favorite recent games, like I just said, and it does have an incredible difficulty spike, but that's not what we're talking about today. It just feels like a classical turn-based RPG that's been modernized in all the right ways. At first glance, yes, it feels traditional, but once combat starts, you realize that there's a little bit more to it, because magic attacks can curve across the battlefield, and ranged attacks can pierce through enemy lines, and certain abilities let you line up these really satisfying multi-enemy shots if you can angle them properly. You're always thinking about where everything should be during a fight, which is weird for a JRPG, but it works so well. But one thing I really love about this is the dimension system. Instead of interrupting exploration every 30 seconds with, random encounters, Fantasian allows you to store away battles for later. Of course, it caps at 30 enemies stored, and then eventually you're forced to fight everything all at once. It really changes the pacing of the game, in my opinion. Exploration feels a lot more smooth, and battles become these huge strategic playgrounds where you're trying to wipe out entire groups efficiently. You can also feel the DNA of Final Fantasy in this game really clearly, and honestly I think this is a great step forward from the conditional turn-based combat system of Final Fantasy X, which of course makes sense because this comes from Hironobu Sakaguchi. So I would say this is a really great and smart evolution of classic turn-based combat, but like I said, the difficulty spike almost halfway through the game was enough to turn me off, but definitely check this one out. Next up is Arc the Lad. Now this is one game that I have probably played half of, and it's so unique, honestly, and I think it deserves a lot more attention than it gets. Battles happen on this compact grid-based map where you always have to get in the right spot. Attack ranges, spell areas, movement distance, every turn feels deliberate without things being dragged out. And the pacing is what really changes the feel of the combat. Everything's pretty quick, abilities are super easy to understand, and there's like this very addictive rhythm to it, and you always have to kind of reposition your team for maximum efficiency. I would say this feels like a faster paced cousin to Fire Emblem. This is a game that I would love to see come back in some way, shape, or form. Live Alive, Live Alive, it's one of my favorite games in recent years and one of my favorite HD 2D remakes as well, and it's so cool because the combat system is incredibly different and I haven't played anything like it. Battles take place on small tactical grids, of course, where positioning heavily affects your attacks, your movement, and your abilities. What really makes this special is how different each character feels. Every chapter introduces completely new mechanics, new pacing, and new combat styles. One character might focus on like a fighting thing, while others almost plays like a stealth game. So instead of mastering one battle system for the entire game, Live Alive constantly changes, and it's so fun. And when all those characters finally come together later on, it becomes incredibly satisfying seeing how everything connects. It's experimental in the best possible way. Next up is Xenoblade Chronicles. This was really fun because this took MMO style combat and somehow transformed it into one of the most unique battle systems ever made. Characters auto attack in real time while you activate arts manually. But the deeper you get into the game, the more combat becomes about positioning and timing and combo management. Some attacks work better from the side, others only work from behind, and certain abilities trigger extra effects like, you get a break and then topple and then daze the enemies. So even though the battles look chaotic at first, there's actually a ton of strategy happening underneath. And then there's the future sight mechanic. Seeing future enemy attacks before they happen completely changes the feel of the game because you're constantly reacting to incoming disasters before they occur. So thankfully Shulk, yes, can see into the future, and that system alone made Xenoblade feel unlike anything else when it came out, and still does, honestly. I think it's wonderful, blending real-time combat, MMO mechanics, party management, and predictive strategy in a way that feels super fresh. One of my favorite games of all time. Okay, let's talk about this one right here. Maybe I'll do a full video on it eventually, but for now, let's just talk about the combat. So Quest 64 I know has a reputation, and honestly, yes, some of it is deserved, but I'll always respect Quest 64 for trying to do something different. Combat takes place inside these small little arenas where you have to get yourself in the right spot. During each turn, you can move freely around before casting spells or attacking, which already makes it feel different from most of the stuff around the time that it was released. Now, magic here is divided into 4 elements: earth, water, wind, and fire, and instead of traditional leveling, your character grows stronger based on how you actually use those elements. That kind of progression system was genuinely interesting back then, but you can see ideas here in later RPGs that would obviously continue to refine things in much better systems. So I like what Quest 64 tried to do. It's fun, it's quirky, and honestly, if you haven't played it yet, give it a shot. It ain't perfect, but it's fun. Now, this is one I love to talk about a lot, and I think it has probably the smartest combat system out of this entire video, and that's Grandia. Everything revolves around this gauge at the bottom, a timeline that determines when characters and enemies attack, but unlike traditional turn-based stuff, timing becomes a weapon. If you hit an enemy while they're preparing an attack, you can interrupt them completely and knock them backwards on that timeline. Once you understand that mechanic, combat changes entirely. You stop thinking purely about the damage and start thinking about how you can control the battle. Can you cancel the enemy's attack? Can you interrupt the boss before it starts to do this powerful move? Can you permanently keep enemies locked down? It creates this amazing flow where battles feel really reactive and fast-paced and fun all at once. And even now, Grandia's combat system still feels incredibly modern. And while I haven't played a lot of Grandia 2 yet, from what I understand is that invented even further on Grandia 1. So definitely check this game out if you're wanting a really fun and fast-paced battle system. Now, hang on, before we get any further, did you guys know that almost 85% of the people that watch my channel on the regular aren't subscribed? So if you would love some more fun retrospectives, discussion, deep dives, lists, top 10s, all that fun stuff, I would love to have you here. So don't forget to hit subscribe. Anyway, more video right now. Final Fantasy XII. I'm telling you, I didn't really love this game at first, but now that some time has passed, I kind of understand it a little bit better. This was a really bold reinvention of combat systems in terms of a series. I mean, instead of going from traditional menu-based battles, everything plays out in real time while you move freely around the environment. This was like Xenoblade before Xenoblade, pretty much. The real genius here is the Gambit system. You basically program your party members using these customizable AI instructions, like heal allies below 50%, cast buffs automatically, target certain enemies first, or exploit elemental weaknesses. Like, all this kind of stuff is so programmable, and it really does feel strange letting the game play itself, but eventually combat becomes less about direct input and more about building the perfect strategy beforehand. You're basically designing a battle engine in real time, and that level of customization was insanely ahead of its time, honestly, now that I think about it. A lot of people bounced off of it, yes, but I'll always respect how ambitious this system was, and I really think I should go back to it soon. Here's another one that I actually want to do a video on really soon, and that's Parasite Eve. While I haven't finished my playthrough yet, this is one that I look forward to chatting to you guys about. This feels like somebody combined a survival horror and turn-based RPG in like this strange experiment, and it really works. Combat happens in real time while you move Aya around enemy attacks, waiting for your action gauge to fill, so battles feel a little bit more tense because you got to move around and not get hit, obviously. Some boss fights feel a little bit closer to bullet hell encounters rather than classic turn-based combat. And then you add the abilities, weapon customization, armor tuning, and status effects on top of that, and then everything becomes surprisingly deep. So while I don't have a whole lot more to say about Parasite Eve just yet, because I don't want to spoil an upcoming video, Parasite Eve is incredibly unique and ambitious for what it did, and it's pretty fun. Here's a weird one, but one that I really respect for doing something different. Chrono Cross has one of the weirdest combat systems probably ever created, and I mean that more as a compliment. Instead of using traditional magic point systems, abilities are tied to stamina management and an elemental grid. It's like total mind-melting stuff, but if you actually sit down and understand it, it does make sense. You perform weak, medium, or strong attacks to build points basically before unleashing stronger abilities. Every turn becomes this risk-reward balancing act. Do I keep attacking to build points, or do I cash out immediately with a powerful elemental spell? And then there's the field effect system, where the battlefield changes color depending on which elements are being used. So if the field becomes dominated by one color, abilities tied to that element become significantly stronger. It's very experimental and unlike anything I've ever played. So Chrono Cross feels a lot less like a traditional JRPG battle system and like a Chrono Trigger sequel, and more like a strange strategy game hidden inside Chrono World. I mean, I don't know, it's a very unique game. I know not everybody loves it, but I really got to respect it for doing something different. Next up is Legend of Legaia. This is one that I don't have a lot of experience with. I bought it not too long ago. I want to do a full standalone video on this. So again, Stay tuned for my full thoughts here in the next couple months, but Legend of Legaia basically asked, what if turn-based combat played like a fighting game? So instead of selecting attacks from menus, you input commands and perform martial art combos, and discovering new movements and attacks is super addictive and fun. You're always experimenting with inputs and chaining things together and trying to find best combos instead of just mashing attacks to win, which doesn't work, believe me. And that alone made Legend of Legaia stand out, but then the game adds summons and elemental stuff. It's just so fun. So I would say it almost feels like this missing evolutionary step between classic turn-based systems and modern action RPG combat. I really haven't seen anything like it since. Now here's a game that I bounced off, but I really respect it for what it tried to do. Vagrant Story might genuinely have been one of the most complicated systems I've ever played, and I understand that's why people love it. Combat happens in real time, but targeting pauses the action and lets you manually choose specific body parts of the enemy to attack, like the arms, the legs, the head, or the torso. And depending on what you're using for your weapon and what enemy you're fighting, I mean, that matters a lot. Some enemies are weak to specific damage, others are, weak to piercing, for example, and some can literally have abilities disabled by targeting certain body parts. I mean, it all makes sense, of course. And then you have the risk system that can be thrown into the mix. The more aggressively you chain attacks together, the stronger you become, but your accuracy drops. So combat is always pushing you to take risks. It's very dense, it's very intimidating for sure, and honestly, it's the reason I bounced off this game. And plus, I really didn't resonate with the story, but there's really nothing like this. Now here's a fun one because I love the Yakuza series and I haven't had a chance to talk about it a lot lately, but the most recent game, excluding Kiwami 3, was Infinite Wealth, and this took the turn-based combat from Like a Dragon and just injected so much fun into it. You can, move around during your turns, which completely changes how fights play out. You're setting up attacks and bouncing enemies into walls and launching enemies into teammates and using objects. It's so fun. I mean, it almost feels like a turn-based RPG tried to really mash into an action game. And if you know the combat of the Yakuza series, which for most of the series was kind of like a brawler thing, I think this works pretty well and it's so fun. And then Infinite Wealth adds a job system, which is just insane. You can swap abilities and maintain all the unique personalities of all these characters. I mean, but the coolest part for me was actually playing with Kiryu in turn-based form. It's so weird to play with him in turn-based, but it makes sense. But I really like how it blends mechanics from some of the older Yakuza brawler games, even temporarily transforming battles into real-time action sequences. It's so smart. Honestly, it's a great evolution of the system introduced in Like a Dragon, and honestly, it might be one of the most entertaining turn-based combat systems I've ever played. So there's my list for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what I'm missing. I'm sure I'm probably missing your favorite thing, but that's just the list of everything that I've experienced so far that I thought was, pretty cool and unique. And I can't wait to do a full standalone video on this one. It's coming, believe me. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.